Sego sewa kwego, dehalun hiate yungyat stano wagatlono. My name's Abraham Francis, and I just introduced myself in my Mohawk name and my clan, which is Deer. I'm from Akwesasne, and I identify as a two-spirit man. And I've just gone on the tour with Aaron, our two-spirit tour, and I think it's been really powerful to see that recognition of two-spirit identity and that involvement of queer identifying individuals. I think it's an important step forward in our communities to get that inclusion in the ceremonial space, so we can start reclaiming those traditional roles and starting to fulfill them, and actually starting to negotiate those spaces in communities where two-spirit identity necessarily it isn't recognized, and especially in this community where there's such a stark difference between males and females, or masculine and feminine spirits, and that understanding. So I think that inclusion here is something so powerful that we can start creating dialogue and in Akwesasne and start educating people, and which is like the means to start eliminating transphobia and homophobia and these spaces like this. Because in order for us to really, for myself anyways, not for all queer individuals in Akwesasne, but for myself to feel truly a part of Akwesasne, I would like to fulfill those kind of roles, and I feel like I'm fulfilling that role by being a part of walking with our sisters and fulfilling the LGBTQ role, and I'm just hopeful that it will start that dialogue, or that it'll keep continuing that dialogue, and we can start really starting to discover what it means to be queer in Haudenosaunee culture. And I think there was something that I really wanted to talk about, and it was about one of the vamps. They had the zip ties on it, and for some reason that just resonated with me, with like sort of the experience that trans individuals experience, and especially trans women. And it's really sad because it seems to be an issue that really isn't highlighted in the queer community, or even mainstream, or really anywhere. And I think that it's so important to bring that conversation out, to give trans women that space to talk, or to tell those stories about those experiences, and especially for Indigenous women. And to be a trans Indigenous woman, I feel like that makes them kind of vulnerable to just the violence out in the world, and it's sad, because I believe they have a role to fulfill in our communities, and to think that we could lose such influential leaders and spiritual individuals, it hurts a lot to think about that. And I'm hoping, as an Ungwahua man, that I can learn ways to support our women and be there for them, and as a queer individual, help create discussion and how I can fulfill a role in my community.
Bojo, Maldi Macabre, Jagan Shimo, and Indishnikos, so Mishikakong, Mamatugoji, Witigwan, and Donjaba, Makwana Dodem, Anishinaabe, Nishwana Doagandam. I just introduced myself in Anishinaabe Moen. My English name is Maldi Macabre, and my mother's family is from Laxal First Nation in Treaty 3, Northwestern Ontario, and I'm a gender non-conforming two-spirit Anishinaabe. I'm part of the Bear Clan. And I'm here visiting in Akwesasne, supporting our neighbors just down the highway from Ottawa, where I was a part of the committee with Walking with Our Sisters Ottawa, where we just finished our installation week. recently. And the Ottawa committee had a really great number of Two-Spirit people fulfilling many different roles as keepers, as elders helpers, as fire keepers, as media artists doing installation, photography, as dancers and singers, and really helping to maintain that ceremonial space and reclaim and demonstrate to the community what Two-Spirit roles can look like for people in our ceremonial spaces outside of the gender binary, how things have often been laid out. I think one of the most powerful memories for me was during the opening ceremonies for Walking with Our Sisters, where we had not one but 3 drum groups. We had the Ottawa River Singers on their big drum, which is a men's drum group, as well as a number of women with their hand drums, as well as the Unity drum, which is carried by a Two-Spirit Anishinaabe woman in Ottawa, and it's a drum that's open to all, but especially attracts Two-Spirit people singing at that, and the big drum especially in recent times has been so heavily gendered and restricted from women and gender non-conforming individuals, but as an Anishinaabe person, we have teachings about the big drum coming to us from the Lakota, and having a lot of those teachings of the early big drum talking about how it was gifted from the woman to the men, but with the instructions that if the men ever drop that responsibility, that the woman would then start coming to the drum again and picking that up. And that's happened a few times in Ottawa, where men were invited and expected to bring the big drum to another community event, and signals got crossed and nobody showed up with the big drum. But meanwhile, the drum carrier of the Unity drum was in the audience and brought it out and had Two-Spirit people and women singing at that big drum, because otherwise that responsibility for the community would have been completely unfulfilled. And we see that as a way of both restoring Two-Spirit roles within the community, as well as maintaining balance when that balance needs to be restored. And a way that I specifically participated was to open the space for the lodge as a Two-Spirit grass dancer. We sent out an invitation to all the grass dancers in Ottawa, but none of the others were available on a work day, so I was the only one able to dance in the lodge before we started laying down the cedar and preparing the lodge and open that space. And throughout, and even prior to the lodge opening in Ottawa, we had a lot of young Two-Spirit people working in the community, and a lot of them really felt compelled to hold an event talking about inclusivity and creating safer spaces for Ottawa, and that was really done by the leadership of young Two-Spirit people in their early 20s, talking about their experiences coming out as trans and gender non-conforming within the community, and the obstacles that they face, but also the amount of pride that they've taken in reclaiming that role for themselves, and just feeling so much more confident and comfortable being able to truly represent themselves to the community and have that educational capacity and be welcomed in again, because it can be difficult, especially coming out in the Indigenous community, where our parents are friends and know each other, and people have seen you grow up, and maybe have like these expectations, and to see like these other young Two-Spirit folks talk about being gender non-conforming and what their wishes are for how they want to continue to participate and be welcome in the community, I think was a really powerful discussion that Walking with Our Sisters helped to create a framework for.
I'm Zero, and I'm a trans agender person, and I don't have nearly as interesting a story as these two. But I've been here since the first day, helping lay down the tape and the carpets and all that. few actually, because like being a gender non-conforming indigenous person with the heavily gendered roles around here, sometimes I forget that I'm not the only two-spirit around here. So it's always